Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Aruminos in the 5-minute pool on ICC. I've got a little extra time today, so I'm going to record a couple more 5-minute games. And we're playing a Qd8 Scandinavian against Aruminos, 2161. Just checking out this player and their stats. Peak 5-minute rating of 2255. So here White usually plays knight f3, and I get bishop g4 in. Against this move, I like a6. If you watched my recent chess rivals against Danny Wrench, you will have seen that I often played this a6 move. It's a good way to combat bishop c4 lines in the queen d8 Scandinavian. Contrary to the queen a5 Scandinavian, you usually don't play this way in that line. Okay, so an early knight e5. I think I'll still play this move. This leaves me weak on this diagonal, but in the event of queen f3, I could even play rook a7, and I don't see how White would exploit that. I might get my bishop to b7 pretty fast after that. Unless they're planning something like sacrificing on b5, but I would really doubt that that works. So if this bishop moves, I can play bishop b7, or I can even take on d4. That's probably the critical test, actually. Depends where this bishop goes. Let's say it goes to b3. So if queen takes d4, they can't play bishop e3, skewering my queen to my rook, because I take on e5 and I have the bishop pinned. So do I dare to take this? Queen takes d4, and, I mean, they might just have to move the knight back somewhere. If take knight c6, I can trade and then move my queen back to d7 and block the check. That looks all right. Well, let's continue the trend of me grabbing material. As you saw a couple games ago against Damian04, when I grabbed a pawn in a Sicilian. I've always been the type that likes to take material and try to make my opponents prove they have compensation for it. I don't mind sacrificing material myself, but somehow I get a lot of satisfaction in proving that I can be materialistic and get away with it. I don't know why. Maybe I like defending. I'm not opposed to defending in chess. So, okay, so here bishop b7 attacks the queen. If queen g3, in that case, I have knight h5, forking the queen and the bishop. So yeah, bishop b7 looks natural and good. Let's do it. Also, it prepares the rook to come back to a8 if necessary. White has to be careful where they put this queen now. I believe they have to play queen e3, because, as I said, queen g3 runs straight into knight h5 with the fork. So queen e3 would be excellent for me. I get to swap queens. I could even play queen e3, bishop c5, and maybe try to force White to trade queens on my terms. That also prevents them from castling for a move. So I may do that. Could take, but they take with a bishop, then I have to move the rook. I think I would prefer to play bishop c5. I'm just checking to make sure something like bishop c5, knight takes f7 doesn't work. I can take e3 in that case. They take with their bishop. That's slightly messy. Maybe I shouldn't even allow that. Bishop c5, knight takes f7. Point being, king takes f7, queen takes e6, check. All right, I'm just going to take.
Check.
The g2 pawn will still be hanging. I mean, I am up a pawn, and this pawn is under attack, so it looks like White's going to have to lose a little more time defending that. So they're daring me to take on g2. If I do, rook d8 check is an idea. Don't know that their rook would be able to, or their knight would be able to come back from rook d8 check, king takes, knight takes f7, king e8, knight takes h8. I'm going to play a safe move once again. Or am I? Yeah, let's do that. Bishop d6, just attack this knight. Maybe I can castle. This knight can come to d7 or c6. g2 is still under attack. For those of you who are bored by the queen d8 Scandinavian, I'm sorry. This is just the line that keeps on giving, so I'm going to keep playing it. All right, so knight bd7 is what I was thinking. I could take on f3 and just really wreck their pawn structure, but I don't think it's necessary. Knight c6 or knight bd7. Close call between the two. Knight c6 blocks my bishop, but maybe I can get in knight a5. All right, let's do that. So looking to move the knight here. take that light square bishop. I think that would be a good trade for me. Then I secure the bishop pair, and this bishop is unleashed again on the long diagonal. Queen f3 on move 8 was tempting, but I really think that's a net negative move for white. They lost a pawn, and none of the tactics worked out. I mean, rook a7 is awkward for a move, but after that, white has to reckon with some issues. All right, so I can castle queenside here. If I castle queenside, they might have knight g5. I won't take this bishop yet because I don't feel it's necessary. Oh no, I can't castle queenside. I already moved this piece. Let's castle short then. I did that in an OTB game one time. I moved my kingside rook as black, and then my opponent did something, and I moved the rook back to its original square, and a few moves later I tried to castle by accident. It's really embarrassing. This move does nothing. I can just kick the knight away if I want. Yeah, let's just do that. He has to go right back to f3. Probably rook fd8 now. Once again, I don't have to play knight takes b3. Maybe I'll gear up for c5. If I could play c5, then I'd be threatening c4. And it may induce white to play a weakening move like a3. I think knight g5 was kind of a sign by white that they were out of ideas, because that's not a great maneuver. Knight g5 and then back to f3. Okay, so we have some simplifications going on. I'm going to come here and look to get a trade in so I can attack this pawn. Knight f4 is possible. Knight takes c3 is just possible. c5 is possible as well. Actually, I kind of like the look of c5. Let's do that, because if bishop back to e3 I can take, and then I have both bishops. Let's see if they take d5 or if they just retreat the bishop back to the e3 square. I think that's probably what they'll do. Yeah, and I think taking it immediately is fine. Ah, this move is possible. Yes, that's true. Take c3, perhaps. Yes, let's do that. And then I'll back the bishop up to e7, most likely. I could take f3, too. But if they take f3, they can take d6 with their rook. And then that's an opposite color bishop scenario, so let's just do this. Key's going to be not getting too far behind on time. Otherwise, up the pawn, two bishops. This is technically winning for black. He's trying to wrest control of the file away from me with that move. All right, I'm just going to take. I'll go bishop here and attack this pawn. And then maybe rook c8 just to kick the invading bishop out. Depends what white does. I think they'll probably play c4. That'd be my bet. Note if bishop e5, I have bishop takes f3, and that bishop would be hanging. Oh, white's using a lot of time now. Okay, I can still play this move, b4. Now it looks doubly good to do this because they're pinned. What?
Check.
Okay, he's just going to let me take, I suppose.
Check.
Now he realizes that he has to move fast. Let's come here and attack this pawn. Probably king c2 is forced to defend. I guess he has b4. That's right. Okay, let's come here. So now bishop c6 is the threat. On that one, I think I can just take here. And then take on e5, next move. Two bishops for the rook.
Check.
Let's play g5, just gain a little space. Bring our king up a bit. Not much he can do. He can try to go after that a5 pawn.
Time
but
warning.
That's about it. Let's come here. Okay, he's bailing quickly, trying to get to an endgame. right, let's just advance this.
Check. Check. Check.
Let's get this out of the way.
Check.
Oh, okay. So we were a couple moves from mate. Yeah, he just went into blitz mode. All right, so let's go back. This one was mostly decided in the opening when white failed to gain compensation for that pawn on d4. So on bishop c4 on move 5, I do think a6 is a good reaction. And one of the main ideas of this line is that if knight f3 is played, then black goes b5, bishop b3, and then c5. And it doesn't seem to me like white has figured out a solution to this idea. And in fact, Danny and I played a game like this the other day in that Chess Rivals. It was a bullet game, but still. After take and then take here, let's say knight takes, black can play e6, and this pawn is very difficult to defend. My game with Danny went bishop e3, knight here, attacking the bishop, which is defending the pawn. And then I believe Danny played bishop d4, and I went knight c6. And I just don't think white's able to hold on to that pawn. Again, I'm threatening to take that, and c5 will fall. So my opponent instead, oh wait, he played this move, and I just played e6. All right, well, I probably should have played b5 directly and then done exactly what I just displayed there. But I played e6 for some reason, which is also fine, actually. b5. Yeah, and then this queen f3 move. Let's see what the engine thinks about that. Yeah, it says bishop e2 is better. So that's probably another reason why I should play the immediate b5 if I'm going to go for this line. I just forgot that this is actually how I usually play it. Yeah, I think in this case, moving the bishop to e2 makes some sense because the knight has now vacated the f3 square, so playing this and then trying to put the bishop here is not a bad plan. But queen f3, I get rook a7 in. Yeah, and it looks like I can take the pawn. So even here, maybe white should have considered other moves for the bishop, like bishop e2. Yeah, the idea there would be to block the e-file so that after queen takes d4, bishop e3, I think is possible, skewering the queen to the rook. Take here, take here. Note there's no pin. In the game, that dark square bishop would have been pinned on e3. So white played that. I took. I just didn't see how they were going to punish me for this, so this is why I went for it. So what is objectively best here? Queen g3? Yeah, that move is annoying. It defends the knight. Also, it eyes g7, so I can't move this bishop as easily. I probably would have done something like rook a8 now, but then bishop e3. Okay, and white's getting a lot of play, it seems. If queen d6, I assume rook d1. Yep, attacking the queen, and I'm getting buffeted around the board. So better would be after queen g3 playing bishop d6, so letting white take here, but then I still take on e5 with check, so that's not possible for them. They could play this, though, couldn't they? Take, 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 take here, knight bd7, and the engine thinks black has good compensation for the exchange. That's a little surprising. Says it's dead even, despite white being up a point in material. Rook versus minor piece plus pawn. Nonetheless, it does look like queen g3 is probably the move. But bishop f4, on the other hand, I don't think it helps white's cause. I get bishop b7 in with tempo, and yeah, unfortunately they have to offer a queen trade because this runs into knight h5 with the fork. And here bishop e3 is possible. Take, take, c5. So don't even go after the rook in the corner. Just play c5 and block their bishop instead. And things are working out in black's favor.
Check.
So white did queen e3. I traded. Move the rook back. Yeah, here I was debating whether I should take that pawn on g2. Whoa, that is not a great diagonal line. One tactic I saw, though, is like something like this. And then if the bishop moves back, going here.
Check.
I don't know if this
Check.
actually works out for him. Possibly not, but it seemed awkward. I lose that f7 pawn. If this knight can survive, white could be doing okay. But I'm sure there's improvements. King e7 is better according to the engine. I just didn't even want to have to think about that. So I played a developing move with tempo on the knight. Knight back here. Knight c6. Knight a5. I thought this was nice because now I can play to win their light square bishop whenever. I thought they should have played like a3. So that if knight a5, they can always just drop the bishop back. That seems slightly better to me than allowing knight a5. Yeah, so all this happened. Knight g5, complete do-nothing move. I mean, that kind of shows that white is struggling to come up with a plan. h6, and the knight can't go to e4 because I had that covered twice.
Check.
So we secured the two bishops. I played knight d5. I missed that bishop e5 was possible, but it didn't matter. Here, note that they cannot play rook takes d6 because of knight e2.
Check.
With the fork on the king and the rook. So instead they took. Yeah, and here, bishop takes f3 is tempting, trying to remove the guard on e5, but white will respond with rook takes d6. And I think the only scenario I'd want to avoid here is an opposite color bishop scenario. I'm up a pawn, but if I transition to an opposite color bishop endgame, white may draw or have chances of setting up a fortress. So I just kept the bishops on the board.
Check.
White played to control the file, but this seemed like a bad idea, allowing b4, and I can pin this pawn on c3. Yeah, and this is not good for white at all.
Check.
I took with a pawn. Bishop takes is also possible.
Check. Check.
And now it was a time scramble, but one in which black has far the better chances. Here I went for the two bishops versus the rook. Before making that decision, I just wanted to make sure I didn't lose the a6 pawn so that white couldn't easily gain a passed b pawn. But if something like rook a7, I can always play bishop here and guard this. It's just a technical win for black.
Check.
Yeah, and then very soon they sacrificed on c3 because they were running very short on time. And always the fear here is that you're going to stalemate your opponent.
Check.
So I think I even hung my queen a couple times just to make sure I didn't stalemate them in this limited amount of time that we both have available. It's just an awful feeling when that happens. It's like you're outplaying your opponent the whole game, and then somehow they pull off like a miracle stalemate. But unfortunately, I avoided that, and they flagged. So, all right, so in this one, I should have remembered to play b5 on the move that I would have liked, which is right here instead of e6. But nevertheless, e6 is fine, and I think if I grab d4 and white doesn't have much to show for it in the next few moves, then I like my play. Had they played, after queen takes d4, the move queen g3, that would have led to more of a fight, I think. I think in that case, white's getting a lot more tangible compensation for the pawn. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll be back soon with another one. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.